All right, so we then moved into a rebrand. So we're gonna talk all about the rebrand. If you are just joining us now, I talked a little bit in our first video about the roots of how Imani Collective even became Imani Collective. But the importance of this chapter of our story is this is where we really started focusing on how to create an organization that was sustainable. We knew that we were spending so much time on our impact and loving our women. You know, we run a lot of different holistic programs, which I didn't even touch on in the first video, but our first two programs that we started running when we first built the training program was childcare and also the food program. And to me, that was really important because I have always wanted to come alongside our artisans with this wraparound holistic approach. And that's a really important when we're looking at social, economic, sustainability, which is part of our pillars that we'll get into in later videos. But in order for us to sustain these programs and we were paying a small salary at that time, we needed to create a sustainable arm of revenue. And as an organization and as one individual, networks are limited and we had limited financial resources. So we were working on a very shoestring budget and it wasn't always, we didn't have a lot of strategy in the beginning. So this rebrand was really important to us. So we went to New York Now in 2016. We did not do well. We had 4 orders at the booth, a handful of contacts that we left with, which is not necessarily the greatest because when you're working in a large like New York Now setting, there's thousands and thousands of vendors and thousands of buyers. So you should leave with a couple hundred orders, if not more. So what I knew I needed is I needed to take off all the hats that I wear, and one being that product development hat. That is just not my cup of tea. That's not what I'm good at. And so I hired Haley Bickham on as our lead designer at the end of 2016. And within 3 months, we developed a collection. In this collection, we looked at all of the artisan brands out there and we realized we really wanted to hone into home decor. But what we noticed is that the brands that were making home decor, they were missing a piece, and that was of kids' spaces. And for Haley and I, we had very young kids at that time. So Jaden at that time, my son, was 4 months old and she had a year-old son. And so we're looking at how are we personally decorating our spaces in a way that's aesthetically pleasing to our home, that's not distracting, that's fun and interactive and safe and organic for our kids. And so it was at that point that we realized, okay, we're gonna rebrand into a product that doesn't necessarily look Kenyan, right, with this bright fabric, but is going to be competitive in the marketplace and is going to meet a very specific ideal customer. And so our ideal customer that we were focusing on was this modern mom, very similar to Haley and I. So over those 3 months, we worked many late nights. We really looked through, okay, what products do we want to make? What interactive toys? What material do we have on the ground that we can use? One thing that I have always stood by is that we don't import our material, but that we buy locally on the ground. So we knew we could work with a lot of our wovens and our wool, as well as canvas. So you'll see now today we make lots of canvas products because we know that we can find that here in Kenya, and then that's gonna be consistent and it's not gonna leave. And so we went back in February of 2017 to New York Now, and we relaunched this new collection. And it was a very different experience. We had people always in our booth. We had over 100 wholesale orders at the booth, and we had hundreds of contacts that we left with and followed up with later. Most of these initial wholesale orders from February of 2017 still order with us today and are still very loyal customers. And so this was the start of our rebrand, of really understanding that there was this sales revenue and this opportunity that was different than donations coming in, that we could start taking steps to sustainability. And that's where our journey started in the rebrand. And next, I'm gonna talk to you about how we refocused. And in the next video, we talk about why hybrid. We moved into a hybrid model in June of 2021. And this is, again, a really important part of our story of refocusing in to our values and our sustainability pillars.